fear, you got to wrangle and you got to wrestle it. And then you got to use it as fuel.
Sure.
And guardrails for yourself.
Welcome to the House of Germar podcast, where wellness starts within. The House of Germar is a lifestyle brand empowering women to live all in interior design and personal wellness. We are a destination for women ready to reimagine what is possible in their homes and lives and then create it. We are honored to have you join us on our mission to empower 1 million women to live all in. I am your host, Jean Collins, and I invite you to become inspired by this week's guest. Welcome to the House of Germar podcast, where wellness starts within. I'm your host, Jean Collins, and today's guest is Amy Vischio. Amy is so special to me for so many reasons, which we're going to share. But Amy's career path is really all about reinventing herself through life. And I'm so excited for her to share her stories. She was a media executive. She is an incredible photographer who shot for me for my interior design business. And she also is an incredible artist. And I am blessed to have some of her artwork in my home as well. So Amy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. And always good to see you. Always.
Always. And every time we talk, I will say to people, every time we talk, we could talk for hours, just hours. Like you have this creative energy that just glows and you do so many things and you're so interesting as a person, I find, because you really put yourself out there and you try a lot of things, you do a lot of things, a lot of people, you see a lot of things. And so I find every time I talk to you, you're also just a really spiritual person, which I love. So every time we talk, there's always a lot to say. Thank you for joining the show and sharing a little bit about you with the audience so that they can learn.
Thrilled to be here because when we go on a photo shoot, we talk most of the time. We do. We get it done, but we talk.
We do. And we talk the whole time. Yes, we do. And every time we do a photo shoot, it's like all day. We're together like all day long and we cover a lot of different subjects. And it's a great way to get to know someone really well. And Amy's eye for photography is incredible. And I've been blessed to have her photograph some of my projects that are on my website. All right, let's talk a little bit about you because this is about you and your background and your life experience. So tell us a little bit about you and how you started your career and if anything is applicable in your upbringing to that journey to your first big career, because you've had multiple careers. Be sure to include it because we want people to be able to relate to our stories. It's one of our purposes for this podcast is to have people relate to our stories and get inspired by the things that we've done. And you've done so many incredible things that you can inspire so many women. So I'm going to let you start talking.
Without going too far back, while you were talking, I thought, I should mention that I am sort of known as somebody who wants to always get it right and a perfectionist. It didn't start off that way. In high school, I was very artistic and I went to Stanford High and they had a third floor that was completely dedicated to art and photography, which was wonderful for me. And then I really got into it, loved it, and same with English. However, my mother used to say to me, would you please just show that you care about something other than just making pictures or doing whatever you're doing? I was a very relaxed person. I was carefree. I went with the flow. I didn't often go to school if I didn't feel like it. I go in the front door and go out the back door. And I was a bit of a good girl rebel. I just always did the right thing, but if I didn't want to go to school, I just didn't go. It was this kind of a weird thing. And now, in my life and career, my mother was like, you got to get serious. Like, you got to take something serious. And I think, don't worry, it's all going to work out. And I wish I held that mantra that I had for the first 16, 17, 18 years of my life. I wish I had that until now because I went from not caring about anything to completely immersing myself. I ended up graduating high school early, going to college, doing it in 3 years, a very rigorous communication arts and design school in Richmond. 5 students were chosen for this sort of pilot program. It was rough, but it changed my wiring. It changed my wiring to you have to be perfect. You have to excel. And if you're going to maintain this, you need to prove yourself.
Wow.
And I went from, life is great, it all works out attitude, everybody's good, right, to I got to drill down. And that's exactly what I did. And that I got it, I went through college in 3 years and I got out. I got a job. I had the job before I left college, all of those great things. But it changed my wiring, how I saw the world. And so we fast forward. I got an offer from one of the first companies. If I have this right, it was a Pulitzer family-owned business, and they had enough wherewithal to start the first magazine, business magazine called International Business, that was put out by a magazine.
Cool.
So I was the first in, pioneering that to figure out how to do this on a computer. And I was very young, and they sent me to Ireland, and I did press checks and all these cool things. I was way too young to be doing that work, that kind of responsibility. But I guess the message was, okay, they think I can do it. I guess I can do it.
Of course.
So that's what I did. And then I was doing that for a very long time. And I got an offer from another friend, an illustrator friend, who said, hey, you're doing business, but Field and Stream magazine has been around forever. They're having their 100th anniversary in publishing. And I suggested you as the designer. I was like, really? And I,
How old were you? How old were you when you were becoming a design director?
I started out as an art director and then moved to a design director. He said, hey, this is a huge publication. It's got millions of subscribers. This would be a good thing for you. I was 25.
That's crazy.
26.
That's still crazy. That's a huge publication, and that's a huge job. Huge.
First female.
Ooh.
Ever.
Go, girl.
In that role. Good. So I was like, for that reason, I'll give it a chance.
I'm going to say yes.
So their irony was, he's on Two Park Avenue in New York City. So here I'm working for this outdoor publication, and I'm working on Park Avenue. It ended up being the best job I ever had in my life. And I met the best storytellers. And the reason why I mention this is he shaped my future. Field and Stream, think campfires, think tales of the wilderness and survival and everything else. Everything was a story, and the writers were brilliant.
Right.
I'm reading manuscripts, understanding how that world works, the importance of storytelling. So I was there for 10 years.
Wow.
I was doing great, and one day I lost that job in a takeover.
Oh, no. Wow.
And to this day, I still have an emotional reaction to that because I was doing well.
Right.
Very well.
Yeah.
Exceeding targets and my bonus, all that the fun stuff. And it taught me that all can be going well and you can still fall on your face.
Yep.
I was divorced. I had just gotten divorced, and I just bought a house. And I was like, oh, if this is not a perfect storm, I'm not sure what is. This is amazing. So now I have this little house to myself, and I have a new job. That further wired that rewiring that I went through of excelling.
Right.
And reinvention.
Yep.
So I tried to get back into the magazine world. Long story short, I started a business called iDesign, and I was known for my eye. So I thought, I'll apply to everything. I loved houses. So I took my severance and I did house flip.
Wow.
And
that's so cool. I did not know that about you.
It was scary. It was scary, and it was cool. I did partner with my sister, who was this property was 5 hours away. So that made life complicated, but I got it done. We got it done as a team. Chris was my boyfriend at the time, Andy, and we worked like dogs, but we got it done. And we had a successful flip, and that got me into the housing industry and figuring all of that out. From there, I ended up going to Motley Media. And Motley Media is a bunch of publications a lot of people know in the area. And they wanted to start a shelter magazine. So I launched that whole magazine with them. And that's how I got there. I don't want to go too deep into all of this. It's probably not that interesting. But that's how I ended up doing shelter, going into the shelter. Yeah. And selling in the magazine and the storytelling.
Right.
And the photography.
And your storytelling about these beautiful homes, really, and lives. You also were storytelling about lives of people that live in that geography as well.
People live in these
right.
homes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. How long were you?
I was like,
how long were you at Motley?
17 years.
That's a long time. That's an entire career.
The really long run, a really great run. A-list awards was put together, and that was an incredible experience to be able to build an event alongside a publication. The team there it was a great run.
Now, did you paint? Because I mentioned in the beginning, you're an incredible artist. And when I went to your studio, I could not believe, because I know you're so gifted and talented in storytelling and so talented as a photographer. And then I was like, oh my goodness, look at your artwork. And I was like, how do you have so much creativity and talent? It's unbelievable. So were you painting?
I was always painting. I really started painting in 2006, I think, where Sarah Kaplan, Dovecoat, came to my house to deliver chairs. I don't know, George stopped by. I'm not sure why that all happened, but a piece of mine, and she was like, we can sell these. And I was like, really? So that's how that all started. That was a nice feather in my cap. That's how it began. And then I built the studio, and I now have a hard time making time for the artwork, although I'd like to make more time for it because of the photography.
Yeah. So let me ask you a quick question about your artwork while we're on it. So one of the things I love about your artwork is all of your pieces are so different, and you create lots of different stories within your pieces, and they all are, you have a certain aesthetic that is very typical of you. Like when I see someone post and tag you on Instagram, I'm like, oh yeah, that's an Amy piece. I've seen that, the shell stuff. But then you also have other pieces that I've seen in your showroom that are not like that, and they're different, and they're a little more modern or a little more edgy or bold, like that bright, you had that really dark navy one with the gold in the middle. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I'm always curious for people who are artists. Do you see what you're going to paint before you paint it? Like, how does it come to life?
Sometimes I will be shooting something and see how light and shadow work on an image or a color. And then I'll be like, wow, that could really be, that's a really beautiful palette. And sometimes I will pull color before I have any intention or shape and texture.
Right.
And I'll make a palette that way. But most of the time, I would say my pieces begin with a warm up, and it's sometimes on a practice canvas, just to hold my arm or my hand. And then I will start exploring where I want to go. But I don't always, despite the oyster series, I did want to do oysters because I had gone for a beach walk. But I thought I want to do oysters in a different, more fluid way. And I was like, how can I prevent myself from drawing an oyster?
Right.
And the way to do that for me was to do it on a 6-foot canvas where I had very little control. You're very close to it.
Yes.
You're not drawing. And that changed my perspective. That's what started that series.
Wow. Do you ever, when you paint something, do you look at it and do you get this emotional feeling like, yes, that is so good? Or do you look at it and be like, I don't know that anyone's going to like this but me?
All the time. And I look at it and I say, oh my God, this is really good. And then I will go get a seltzer.
Yeah.
And come back and say, this is so bad. Like, what was I thinking? Or I'll say, I can make it better. And I'll ruin it.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
That's every artist. If they don't tell you they are one stroke away from wrecking a piece,
yes,
I don't know if they're being truthful, because we overwork things.
Yeah.
It's just what happens.
Everyone has to go to your website to see your artwork because it is so uniquely special. And I love artwork and interior design because I think artwork makes people think, and it can encourage conversation and it creates emotion. And I talk about that a lot when I speak about wellness and interior design. And artwork, I think, is so important to creating emotion and a vibe in a room. And the first time I went to your home is so serene and beautiful, and your artwork plays. Yes, you have beautiful like wood floors and beautiful furniture and beautiful aesthetic because you're so talented with interior design, but your artwork, like, it is the jewelry that creates the energy in your home by far. And I think that is something that is such a unique experience and a gift that you have. Congrats.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's like the mutual adoration club here, because when you came, I was like, look at this woman reinventing herself to the point where I was like, she's got guts. Like, I feel the same way about you. I'm like, wow, this is an amazing and inspiring person. And I think that pushes you to do things that you didn't think you can do. And so when I start another piece and I don't really have the confidence to do it, I just think one step in front of the other.
Right.
Just try.
Yeah. That's amazing. So Moffley, you left Moffley, and then what did you do then?
So I left Naples because of a life event. I did not have children because I was ill at the time, and that just never worked out for me. But I was very close with my mom and dad, and I ended up probably wouldn't want to hear that, but I guess it became my focus. I don't want to say my children because they weren't my children; they were my focus. Sure, my great loves. My father passed away 2018, and we saw that coming. It was Alzheimer's, and that's a slow death and a horrible one. But what I didn't see coming was my mother's passing, and that was pancreatic cancer.
Oh,
1 year later, that shook my cage in a way that nothing prior did that. And she said to me, we had 8 weeks. So I would say we spent many days on the bed chatting with her, and she was a pistol, like she was a live wire. So until she couldn't be that, she was. And she thought, is this the first time you're slowing down? It takes me dying for you to slow down. And I think I had time to think about that. And I thought, oh, okay. She said 8 weeks and she's not strong enough to do much. So, everyone talks about living with intention.
right.
That came to that had a different reality for me. And I wanted to be by her side, and life wasn't going to be the same, and I wasn't going to fool myself and think that it was.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah.
I was like, this is not going to be my future. I don't know what my future looks like, but I think I need space to create.
It's so interesting. You're the second guest I've spoken to in the last month who has had that same experience with their mother and the sudden passing of their mother, and how that changes so much and how it really makes you reflect inward about what is important and what does my life mean and who am I and how am I spending my time. And it makes you pause. It forces a pause that I think in hindsight, most of us are like, yeah, I needed that pause.
When you become an orphan, so to speak, you don't have any parents. But you're out there in the world now, you have no parents. It's a very different vibe. I think also I've learned so much about myself that my existence was to please my parents.
Right.
I don't know if that always served me well. There's been a lot of growth on my part since their death. But my mother was more fearless. My father was more fearful, coming out of the depression and everything and that sort of thing. So it's interesting how they both shaped my life. But certainly with my mother's passing, I was like, okay, I feared her dying, and now she's gone.
Right.
They're really to fear.
So Pia, who is a guest of mine, whose episode is airing the beginning of July, she said the exact same thing.
Wow.
The exact same thing. She said, death is coming. It will happen, and it will happen when you don't expect it. And okay, what is worse? Like, that's it. That's the end. And it will happen at some point in time. And she said the same exact thing about fear and how the passing of her mother made her much more fearless, because what do I have to lose? Okay, I'm going to die eventually. What do I have to lose?
Right.
And it changed her mindset so drastically in her relationships and in her job and what she does and how she spends her time and how she takes care of herself. It was so fascinating. And you just said it too. It changes your mindset about fear. And I feel like fear is what prevents so many people from moving forward. However, wouldn't it be nice if we could get over our fears without having to have a major tragedy, such as the death of a parent?
That's right. If anything, would have allowed me to get over that fear about everything. Like, that was really what I feared the most, was my beacon going out. So I stepped down and I went into a very quiet place, little cocoon of sorts. I was very much alone. I felt very, very isolated, very alone. And all of her friends and everything reached out to me. I feel terrible to this day. I wanted nothing to do with her life.
Right.
At the beginning, I did. And then I was like, no. And I realized now, I think I was angry that I'm like, why is everybody else still living that she's not? Like, I don't get it. she was like the best person and did everything right for everyone. And like, this is her fate, is her wicked death of pancreatic cancer. So I was really sour about that. She would not have liked that. So
you would have told you to get out of that, get out and move on.
Then like, when she got the news, I said, Mom, you're the best person I've ever known that walked this earth. And everyone agreed. Aren't you? What is
yes,
this?
right.
And she goes, no, why not me? And I was like, yeah, of course, that's the answer. Yeah. And you're going to do this with grace too.
Right.
Fantastic. Never annoyed, never pissed, never, nothing like that. But so I said to my husband, I said, I am not doing Thanksgiving. I am not doing Christmas. You can do what you want to do. And now it was a few days before Christmas, first year. And I said, my mother was looking forward to a trip to Naples with her friend Nancy. I said, I think I want to go to Naples, Florida to see what she was excited about. They were going to do a road trip and he'd make it. So I said, I'd like to go. And he's like, okay. So he's like, oh, I got all these points. We'll go to the Ritz Carlton or whatever. I was like, I don't care where we go. So I said, it's already here. Yes, she lived next door to me. So I was like, here. So we went to Naples and I was looking at real estate, I love houses. And so I tried to get well versed with the neighborhoods. And then I saw an open house. And I was like, oh, it was the day before Christmas Eve and I didn't make it there or whatever. The day before was Christmas Eve. We were leaving on Christmas Day. So I called Burger. I said, I'd like to get in this house. I got to open up this house for this person on Christmas Eve. And I was like, I won't know until I get there. I don't know what to tell you. So he opened it reluctantly. Was there for my lucky 22 is my number. I was there for 22 minutes. And I went through and I was like, saw this box. And I was like, yep, okay. This is where I'm supposed to do next chapter. And I left and I was talking with Chris and he looked at me like, so what did you think? I thought we're doing this. And he was like, what? And I said, made a mistake and we make a mistake. Right. It's not like, oh, I have so much money, who cares? But again, you go back to that fear. And you think, oh, okay, I'll lose money. It's not life.
It's just money. Right.
Just money. Just money. And although we work very hard for that money, when you have perspective, you realize that money won't buy your health.
Correct.
And so really, how powerful is that money?
Right. Yes.
Here's the funny part about it is, of course, COVID hit and the thing doubled. So things that's like 1 hour is when it's expected. The House of Joy. Her name is Joy, and that's what I dubbed it. I called it the House of Joy.
I love it. I love it. And that house too, I've not had the fortune of being in it, but I've seen lots of pictures of it that you shared with me. And that also looks like it has just such a peaceful, zen, happy place.
That's my vibe, I think, is I try to get that peaceful zen. I think it's because I'm a little crazy jumpy by energy.
Because you could be the other way. So how much of your time do you spend in Florida versus Connecticut?
So right now I'm doing almost half and half, and I go back and forth as needed for shoots, and that's working out well. But one of the things that I would say to people is when you're really honest about when you're in media, I never thought I was somebody, but I was somebody because I was very recognizable. I was always in the magazines, and whether it's on stage or moderating or whatever, you become somebody to other people because they see you. Of course, visibility.
Yes.
If I'm being honest, like it's what can you do for people? So when you're in a place of authority, that's for sure. You've got to be aware of that. I always was. What I loved about Naples was this anonymity that I had. I could go out and I could look like hell and no one cared. They didn't see me all done. Who cares? Who cares? But what came to that was you're nobody. So you're trying to get into a market that is very established and has like their little circles. And it's a tough go. It's a really tough go. So I really had to dig deep and say, okay, how badly do I want this? This is yet another career and another place to try to do it. I think I have a fire that's still burning in me. So just chip away, chip away.
You've definitely built a business down there because I've seen you posting about photographing and So just for the audience, if I wasn't clear, Amy photographs interiors and is stunning and has photographed mine, like I said. But I've seen you posting about photographing interiors in Florida. And what I find so interesting is the aesthetic is different down there. The landscape is different. The design is different down there. And it's also, I love Naples. Of all of Florida, it's absolutely one of my favorite places. I find it so artistic and creative and definitely way more laid back than where we live in Fairfield County, Connecticut. Like, the pace is so much different. I would think there's an interesting balance that gives to your life because you're photographing in a very different environment, a different look and feel, a different energy. Everything about it is slightly different. And I would think that provides an interesting balance to the chaos of Fairfield County and to when we're up here, our brains run, just like you said, you're like, go, 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 go. And we struggle to find the pause, where in Florida, it's just a slightly better pace. I would think that's good.
It's really different. I will tell you, like, I have been told now more than sure 3 times, so that's gotten my attention. People are like, wow, you really are passionate about making a picture. Like, wow, and I'm like, well, yeah. This is what I do.
Find you, of course.
We're going to do this, then let's do this. And there's no sort of like middle ground for me there. But everything is just ratcheted back. They do beautiful work. They have high-end everything. It's a different speed. It's like a totally different speed. So I will say that sometimes when I'm heading back to Fairfield County, I will have a feeling of like, got me the anxiety that comes with that speed. And what I've learned is that that's really on me.
Ah, interesting.
That's really on me. I have to choose how I'm going to react to the demands, how I'm going to react to certain personalities, how I'm going to react to the juggle wheel.
Right.
That is Fairfield County.
Yeah.
So once I sort of righted my mind on that, where no is powerful, I mean, we talk about that. No is powerful. And I just have a much clearer head about it now. Sometimes it gets out in front of me, it's like a fish frying and you're like, oh, like, reel this in.
Right.
But for the most part, I feel now that on me to control that.
Do you feel like you have more life-work balance now in Fairfield County because you have the Florida experience and you have the change in your mindset about it?
I do. I also have more self-compassion and probably a different type of self-love that I didn't have before. I was flogging myself for a very long time.
Right.
I think perfection, which is what I was trying to, I think it's a wonderful pursuit and try to be as good as you can be. But behind that is fear. If you're being honest, why your fear of failing, you feel failing.
Of course.
And so I look at that, it all comes back to fear again, doesn't it?
It does.
Like,
Can't you look at your life? Because I start off by saying your story is all about reinventing yourself at every different phase. And we haven't even gotten to the Lyme disease, which we're going to next. Do you do the talk to yourself, which says, as the fear starts to come in, do you have the conversation with yourself like, okay, but remember all the times it did work out or that I was successful? Like, do you have to have that dialogue with yourself or how do you overcome it?
I read a quote about, I wish I'd actually, I'm so bad at remembering things.
I am
like
too.
part of my Lyme history here, but the fear of fear is bigger than the fear of itself. So I often say to myself, what's the worst case scenario here? I have both the right and left brain working equally, I would say.
Yeah.
And so I will look at it very analytically and say, what's the worst outcome here? If I can't handle that outcome, I will not do it. So that's sort of where my guardrails are. If I couldn't handle the outcome of blowing it in Naples, I would have done.
Right. Yep.
If I can handle that outcome, which I did articulate to myself on paper, I'm going forward. So once I've defined, then I'm like, okay, I get landed. I still have fear. I don't want to fail. But at the same time, if I do fail, that's where that self-love comes in. And I say to myself, what was the lesson that was meant to learn here?
Love it. So wise. So wise. And thank you for being so honest that you still have fear, because I think for so many of us who are entrepreneurs, especially as women, we're like trying to pave a path for ourselves, and we are responsible for our destiny, and we're responsible, even though you have a husband, you are responsible for providing the economics that make your life work the way it works. And your name is on your work. And I think as entrepreneurs, especially creative entrepreneurs, there's so much pressure to, this is the material and the artistic material that we put out into the world. And that is heavy.
But I don't believe the people said go forward and be completely fearless. I think that's good advice for me.
Right.
Because my fear is what drives me to the next level. My fear gets the result for my clients. I never think, oh, I know so much that I am not going to take in the opinion of someone on set or I'm shooting.
Right.
I hope I would never do that.
Right.
Because collaboration always yields the best thing. The whole idea, I mean, it sounds great. Go fearless, you know, you're terrible, awesome. Fear, you got to wrangle it and you got to wrestle it. And then you got to use it as fuel.
Sure.
And guardrails for yourself.
Yeah. It helps you grow. I love it. And you said something also about, you were talking about the difference between Naples and Fairfield County. And it was really you who was going to give the power to the rat race and to the stress that's up here. And I think that same philosophy and mindset approach is true for fear. And you've talked about it in a roundabout way. You can control how much power you give the fear and how the fear manifests itself in your life. And you're successful at manifesting it in a positive way and not letting it stop you from becoming your greatest self.
To fast forward to the, I don't mean to derail the questioning, but to fast forward to the Lyme disease part.
Yes.
When I weigh things, like I'll get a great offer and I'll look at it and say, wow, you know, this is a big one. This is a big production and how exciting and wow. Then you have to do X, right? I go through my mind. What is the cost? Is this playing to my ego? Is this playing to, I'm going to level up and get something creatively better than what I have done in the past? What are the drivers in taking this on?
Right.
What is the cost for doing?
I love it.
And sometimes when I have a fear, I listen to that fear.
Yeah.
Because the fear is telling me that's stress. That's stress. So stress is not good for me. So there a certain amount of stress is good.
Right.
A certain amount of fear.
Yeah.
Is good. Much of those things, not good. I look at it as this, you know, I've got to weigh all these things out and pay attention. And if the cost to do that job is going to be paid through in stress.
Such wisdom. And you know what? I feel like that comes with age because I look at things the same way. It's wisdom because now I'll turn down projects. I turn down work. I don't say yes to everything. And the number one reason why I turn down projects is I don't feel like I'm an energetic match to that client. And I feel like that is going to cause me so much stress that no matter how big the project is, that stress is not worth it to the, it might be great for my portfolio. And yes, it might be great exposure and great experience and great design wise, but the stress, like it's choosing life over work and life has less stress.
And don't you know when you say no to something, that intuition, that voice, right? You say no to somebody, as hard as that might be, based on fit. You know yourself. You begin to trust that little inner voice of, oh, okay, I don't know if this is going to work out. You know, I don't know. If you don't focus on the money, it's not like if you're paying your bills and you can pay your bills and you can live and you've got your bases covered, it's very different when you cannot. All right. So let's assume that you can pay your bills. But when you get a job and you look at what that cost is, that voice, if you listen to it, will tell you this is good for you. This is not good for you. And when you have the courage to say, no, thank you, you walk away from that, 9 times out of 10, the phone rings.
It does. Yep.
And another job comes in that's suited for you.
Correct. Right.
It's just sort of how the universe works.
I was just going to say, that is the law of attraction. That is the universe. And I always say, if you keep saying yes to things that are not right for you, whether it's work or people or how you're spending your time, you are telling the universe that you want more of those things. And if they're not right for you, you're just saying, I want more of that. And if you can stand up and find the courage to say no, then you start to tell the universe, oh, I actually want something different. And I'm willing to be patient to create it.
Yeah. And I think when you, like you're talking about age, when you're 23, you're scrappy. And you don't even know what's right. Your inner voice isn't 100% developed, all those things. So you're right. It does come with age. And
Wisdom.
That is the wisdom.
So let's switch gears and talk about Lyme disease for a little bit. Not only are you very interconnected personally with your mindset and how things affect you, but you also physically have a lot going on. And I remember the first time I met you in person, I was like, damn, girl, you are in great shape. Like, you look amazing physically, but you also work at it. And so talk to us about the Lyme disease journey and how that has impacted your life and how you've had to make shifts for your wellness because of that.
Yeah. I have always been an athlete of some sort. I was always sports oriented. And I think that comes with the mindset of playing, a mindset of winning. There's a competitive nature there. So I was always active. I don't do idle very well. I was feeling really weird, and I started having these strange symptoms, very strange, like edema, like my lip would blow up. I was like, what the heck is going on? I started getting hives, very weird things going on. I never had anxiety in my life. Unfortunately, it coincided with losing that job. And so I went to the doctor, listen, you're stressed, you're anxious, you're this, you're that. I'm like, no, I'm not me. Something is not me. So I was tested 6 or 7 times over a period of many years, 7, 8 years, 2006. Yeah, a long time. But the CDC had a different positive threshold. They had said, okay, this is positive. No one calls you back. Your test was positive 5 years ago.
Really?
They're not going through all those tests and saying,
oh, let's notify all those folks.
Yeah. Sorry, this is an Italian thing with the hands going.
Oh, good.
So it was like, what happens is like you're out there and you're like, okay, well, I was tested. I'm going to believe it. I'm not positive. I just keep on going. So I kept going, and more weird things were happening. Until one day I was running and then I couldn't feel the right side of the road. And I was like, holy shit, I'm having a stroke here.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
So I ended up going to a doctor that was like, you either have lupus or you have late stage Lyme. You might have MS. And I was like, so I was in a MRI tube for almost 3 hours.
Oh my.
They were scanning my brain. And I decided that if I lived, I had this like feeling of doom. If I lived till I was 50, I would plan a party. So that's what I did in that tube. Down to football. They're like, you're so calm. I'm like, I'm planning a party in here. I remember standing outside Advanced Radiology going to get my CD. And I was like, okay, so this is the moment you find out that your life has changed. And I was like dizzy. I could barely walk. I was not feeling good. And to find out that I did not have brain lesions.
Right. Good.
So I did not have MS.
Great.
So then they said, okay, this is late stage Lyme, which unfortunately is neuro Lyme because your eye, everything's being affected is like neurological. So I got a PICC line that was put in my heart. I had that for many months, far longer than you were supposed to have it. Very advanced and aggressive the treatment. And I would be on that treadmill, that PICC line, and just trying to move.
Yeah.
Because I felt if I was idle, it would take over me.
Yeah.
And I felt already hijacked. That was a very dark place. And unfortunately, there's not enough studies on Lyme and how bad it is for some people who do not get it caught.
Right.
That's the late stage problem. The lesson from Lyme was I will never complain about being able to walk, run, weightlift, whatever it's going to be, because it was taken away from me.
Right. Yeah.
So where people were like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? I'm not an ultra marathoner. I'm not an ultra anything. All I try to do is make decisions every day that are in favor of my health and my mental well-being. It's very simple when you look at it that way.
Right.
So I'm not trying to run a marathon. I don't have a fitness program. I just try to make multiple decisions every day. What I put in my mouth, what I do with my body, when I go to sleep, my thoughts, all of those things I don't have 100% control over. I'm not a robot. That's really it. I miraculously overcame one. Miraculously by changing diet, changing lifestyle, radical acceptance that I was not the person I was before I was in.
Right.
I'm not.
Right.
I was a maniac. I could work forever.
Mm.
Can't do that anymore.
Right.
So whatever the cost, I talk about
Right.
cost.
Yeah.
So all that goes into my mind. Stress is the fuel for disease. And so I do my best to not fuel it.
Yeah.
Choke it out.
Smart. It's so smart.
Yeah. So that was a big change for me. And I still live this way. As you know from our photo shoots, I've got to have the help.
Oh, I'm with you. It's one of the things I really like about you is that you actually care. And what you said was so important because I had someone else say this to me. Think about what your future self says to your present self about the decisions that you are making in your present day. And so how does your future self feel about those choices? And that could be, I want to have a cookie before dinner. I want to have an extra glass of wine. I want to not work out today. It's making yourself the focus and really looking within. And you are living a life full of wellness starts within. Like everything you do is about that. And I love that. You're like the epitome of everything I believe in.
I do have the cookie. I do have the ice cream, but it's not every day. And I try to make it more of an indulgence, because we all have to live. You got to live, right? So it's just not an everyday thing.
Correct. Because every day it's too much. I love that.
But I have dark chocolate every single day.
Me too. Because that's okay. Dark chocolate's good. And we love sweets. Like it's okay. And I still drink. I just drink differently than I used to drink. And
I don't drink. So blind, really, I was never a good drinker, but it annihilated.
Did it.
That was an easy decision. Okay, if you don't feel good, don't do it. Don't.
Next. I've had, I think, 3 different guests on my show that said they made the choice not to drink, and they made the choice not to drink because they just didn't like how their body felt. And so therefore they were choosing their health and their wellness and how they felt and the clarity of their brain over that. Because to your point, it goes right back to what you were saying with the cost. They're like, it's the cost of it it doesn't pay out. Like it tastes good, but other things taste good too. So it feels good, but other things feel good too. And the not feeling well and the way it impacts your health at certain stages in life, depending on who you are or what your physical makeup or your ability to handle alcohol, is just not worth the cost. And
when I would go monthly, I would go with a baguette and a hunk of cheese. That was my lunch all day. I would just sit there and eat that. So when I was told this inflammation's out of control, cut out dairy. Cut out gluten.
Totally.
I was like, okay, so we're talking to a half Italian, half Southern girl. Was from the South, and like my father's pasta. I'm like, oh yeah, this is gonna be something. Anything is possible. I just was like, well, yeah, I'll do it. Done. And I cut it right out and started finding and cooking differently. And it just was like, this is easy because nothing tastes as good as feeling good feels.
It's true. Nothing. No, you're right.
So that was an easy thing to do. And then I think you recalibrate your whole taste buds and system and everything else. And one of the guys said to me, who was helping me on the full water thing, I said, my friends aren't going to get it. They're not going to support me. No one wants to see, no, I shouldn't say no on that. Some people do not want to see others doing what they think they cannot.
Correct. Yeah. Right. Because it seems too hard for them. It's too hard for them.
It's very uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable.
Like, right.
When I felt like my life depended on it. So that was easy.
Yeah.
That's the Lyme disease. And then going forward with that in life was like, okay, I'm not going to resort back to my old, because I think we're staving off stuff every day.
Which is so great. And they say your collection of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And sometimes in life, you have to make pivots and shift in who those people are going to be in your life based on what you need for yourself and your personal wellness and for you to be living your best self. Sometimes that means you have to make changes in who those people are, because sometimes people, if they're not aligned enough, whether it's energetically in their beliefs about what you're doing, they don't support it, they're jealous of it, they could never do what you're doing, you're intimidating to them, all the reasons that people kind of pull away. I think it's really wise advice to let them pull away.
It is. I agree. I agree. And I also don't judge anybody.
No.
What's right for you is right for you. It's okay.
Correct.
But I'm always going to want you to feel better. I'll send that olive branch and ask you to try things.
I do it too.
I'm not going to force it, and I'm not going to tell people like, hey, your body is your temple.
Right.
You worship it any which way you want.
Correct. Right.
What am I saying?
Right. But if you're complaining about inflammation, I'll look at you and I'll be like, get rid of gluten. Get rid of gluten and dairy, folks. Give it a try. Try it for 3 months and see how you feel.
They're like, your skin is so pretty. I don't know. I don't know how you. And I'm like, dairy.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Dairy and gluten, big things gone. So
It's
really
just-
quickly, before we run out of time, I do want you to talk about one thing because I am a huge proponent of continual learning and challenging ourselves at any age to try new things. Say yes, try new things. It is amazing how that can change your mindset and change your life. So can you share a little bit about horseback riding?
Yeah. So when I had Lyme, my balance was totally off. And I was a former cyclist. I really wanted to horseback ride. And I just didn't have that balance. And one thing, as you do get older and the fear becomes bigger because you are wiser and you throw your leg over a beast, there's like, you realize, oh, okay, if I'm thrown from this thing, this will have consequences.
And you're a tiny person, by the way. Like you look tiny, hopefully, to the audience, but you are a tiny human.
I'm a tiny human,
Right.
and I have found also when I get on a horse, I think to myself, but what flies in the face that's there is I see these little kids do it, and they don't have fear, and they're very elastic, but their little legs are like over this horse, and they're not hugging the horse, right? So the whole idea is to like have that leg control and her. And I can't wrap my legs that way, right? So when that horse moves, I feel that movement for sure. I decided, okay, you know something, you got it. This is something you really, really want to do. I also want to live on a ranch one day. So I like you better get back on the horse. So I started to horseback ride again. And I am not doing crazy things. I am definitely in the school, like do it right, learn slowly, and have the strength, but face the fear. And every time I get on that horse, I take a deep breath. And the reason why I love it so much is there is nothing I can think of other than staying on that flipping horse.
I love it, right?
That's it. It's like complete, and the horse, knowing that the horse takes on my energy, can feel my energy. I check myself before I go up to that horse and just take a couple of deep breaths. I make myself calm. Then I present myself to the horse.
Right.
Treat
Your
them
best version
like
of you. Right.
I just calm down and I say, I'm calm. I hope you are too. You're not, don't throw me.
Don't make this be my last day on earth, please.
Right. That's a tough thing to do when you've been physically, you've had some challenges and your balance is not right and all that kind of stuff. Hey, if I want to live on a ranch, I gotta get.
And I can't wait because I'd love to live on a ranch too. So maybe we could be neighbors. We can maybe be neighbors. But the other really important lesson that I don't want to pass this up on what you just said is riding the horse. And I have the same thing with the piano for me. Riding the horse forces you to be so present. And that is all you can do. And all you're doing is thinking about staying on the horse. And you are present to what is actually happening then. And I have that same thing. I started to learn how to play the piano in January. And I have to focus so hard on reading the notes and listening to the sounds. And I find it is such an incredible stress reliever because I am so present in what is happening. And I found it's the only thing that I do where I really feel like my brain is just 100% focused on right here, right now, and me learning this new skill. And I think it's so powerful.
Amazing. I think to play an instrument is like being one step closer to God. I just would love to be able to play an instrument.
Anyone can do it.
And I heard it was super musical, could play just about everything. And I have all of the ladies and the ukuleles and a guitar. I just am not gifted in that area.
Anyone can learn anything. Come on. You could learn.
Okay.
We could all
go, Jane.
But I do love it. I do love it. All right. So before we go, I ask all of my guests if there is a book or something that's helped them with their inner wellness or their career or their life growth that they think is worth sharing with the audience that you would recommend someone read?
And this will be the shortest answer. Everybody's like, thank God, stop talking. I say talk. Heather Lanier, I think it's Lanier, is from October 2017. It was the first time I heard it. And it is based on a fable, which is the line comes out that this is all you need to take away. Good or bad, hard to tell. When something happens, so if you listen to it, you'll hear the fable.
Yeah.
Okay. And what we do, we are so quick to label something happening as good. We're like, oh, that's good. That's good. You're good. Oh, that's bad. Oh, that is so bad. I am so sorry. Good or bad? Hard to tell. So the fable is, okay, this guy has a son, and actually there were some horses. He has a horse, and the horse ran away. Everybody comes and says, oh my God, that's so bad. I am so sorry. He says, good or bad? Hard to tell.
I love it.
They're like, what? Horse comes back and 7 other wild horses. I may be changing the numbers up.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you listen to it.
Right.
Get it right. It was like, oh my God. The horses. So, good or bad? Hard to
Good
tell.
or bad, hard to tell, because you don't always know.
The son, I think if I get it right, son takes a ride on a horse, breaks his leg. Good or bad? Hard to tell. They're drafting for the army. They come around, they overlook the son. Broken leg.
There you go.
He doesn't go. Bad? Hard to tell.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
So that it's really well done. I condense it. But if we can condition ourselves every time we go to say something to somebody that reinforces, puts it in the box of good or bad, reinforces their feeling that, oh, this is terrible. Yes, this is a terrible thing that happened. Or, oh, this is so great. If we could just pause for a second, not make that judgment, be open to possibility and how things might play out.
I love it.
We're in a whole lot more flexible, better place to take whatever happens, whatever comes next. We're in a better mindset to handle it because we don't have it fall from good.
Right.
Or whatever it is, or doomsday, or
of course.
It's bad.
Of course.
So that's the TED Talk it's a Heather Lanier. She talks about her daughter. It's just really worthwhile. And it's a great way to get inspired to see things differently.
I love it. I will link it in the show notes so people can click right in the show notes and go right to it. So thank you. You have been so fabulous. So how can people find you before I have to say goodbye?
Really easy. AmyVischio.com, which is Vischio, and at Amy Vischio for Instagram.
I love it. Thank you so
much.
I cannot thank you enough. You are so inspiring. Your energy is incredible. You have reinvented yourself so many times in your life, and you do it with such power and optimism and ease and grace. You really do. And I think
I love hearing that. Let's the truth be known. There's tears, there's ugly days and everything else.
Of course.
And that's part of it. But I'm here for all of it.
I love it. I love it.
It is what it is.
Thank you so much.
You're amazing. Thank you too.
Thank you. We'll talk soon.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the House of Germar podcast, where wellness starts within. We appreciate you being a part of our community and hope you felt inspired and motivated by our guest. If you enjoyed this episode, please write us a review and share it with friends. Building our reach on YouTube and Apple Podcasts will help us get closer to our mission to empower 1 million women to live all in. You can also follow us on Instagram at House of Germar and sign up to be a part of our monthly inspiration newsletter through our website, houseofgermar.com. If you or someone you know would be a good guest on the show, please reach out to us at podcast@houseofgermar.com. This has been a House of Germar production with your host, Jean Collins. Thank you for joining our house.